Reverend Rob Moore has served Interim ministries in Grand Junction, Colorado, and Port Townsend, Washington. He went to Texas to be a part of the original ministry team of a new church startup back in 2004. In addition to these ministries, he has taught junior high and senior high Our Whole Lives program, led a few Wellspring and Soul Matters groups, and participated in various choirs along the way, including the Richmond Men's Chorus. He now works at Travelers Insurance, where in addition to his usual duties, he leads mindfulness sessions and assists in plans for an enterprise-wide mindfulness program. He also now serves as a spiritual director and has served as the affiliated community minister at Horizon UU Church in Carrollton, Texas, and now also at First UU Richmond, where he just launched a new Soul Matters small group ministry. Please help me welcome Rob.
When I was a preteen, living with my mom in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia in the mid-70s, I was often visited by a dark figure at the foot of my bed. As I lie in bed waiting to go to sleep, this dark figure would run up the steps of our condominium, turn the corner around the stair post, down the hall, into my room, and perch at the foot of my bed. When this happened, I would feel like I was shrinking in my bed, swallowed up by the covers. When I saw the figure bounding up the stairs, my body would kick into overdrive, with energy in my gut and rapid, shallow breathing. The figure was vaguely male, but without any defining features. It never engaged with me or did anything other than bound up the stairs and perch at the foot of my bed. But I was quite scared of this specter and was very glad that it only visited a handful of times during my childhood. I asked my mom recently if I ever told her about this, and she has no recollections of me ever mentioning it. But even 50 years later, it really served to freak her out a little bit. So now jump ahead a few decades, and I'm in my adulthood, parenthood, and early ministry. Again, as I lie in bed waiting for sleep, I am no longer visited by a dark figure, but instead I fixate on the moment of my death. Not necessarily any suffering or difficulty in the days or weeks before my death, or any thoughts of the afterlife or lack thereof. I fixate on the exact moment of death. I'm alive one moment and one breath in, and dead the next moment. Lying there in bed, I spin and ruminate for an hour or more, and it is very difficult to calm down and finally get to sleep. My body reacts again by speeding up. The butterflies kick in, my breath gets more shallow and rapid. And even when I could calm my body down, calming my mind was much more difficult. I occasionally would mention this to my spouse and would kind of laugh it off as this weird thing that sometimes happens to me. And as with the dark figure, it didn't happen all that often, another 5 or 10 times in my life. And it still happens from time to time, but less frequently. And with all the contemplative and mindfulness training and tools I've acquired over the years, I'm able to welcome it in and slowly and deeply breathe through it, and can stop the spinning and ruminating within a few minutes. And as I shared with you last fall in my previous visit, I now have the occasional panic attack, especially on bridges, our favorite one, the Norris Bridge, just up the road here, or on the side of a large hill on the island of Iona, and other wide open spaces. And same as with the other two experiences, my body goes into a red alert mode. And as I continue to reflect on these recent panic attacks, especially after returning to Richmond from Iona, I soon realized that these were merely the latest manifestations of my overall fear of death, and that my childhood figure, my reading over the exact death, were the same things at different stages of my life. And since I have just had my 60th birthday a few months ago, I realize that I may be venturing into cliche territory as an aging man coming to terms with his own mortality. And I'm hopeful that instead of being a cliche, or worse, passing along my fear, act of my and all of our certain death. Over the last year, I've experienced a few pieces of pop culture that have transfigured my fears somewhat. As a minister, I, of course, have been exposed to countless poems, readings, quotes, spiritual practices, philosophical and theological musings on death. Over the last year, I've experienced a few pieces of pop culture that have transfigured my fears somewhat. As a minister, I, of course, have been exposed to countless poems, readings, quotes, spiritual practices, philosophical and theological musings on death, and each one has made me feel a little better about it. Up until now, though, that easing of the fear has all been, or mostly, in my head, but my body has not received the message quite yet. I see the journey through fear I am experiencing and remembering now to be the journey from head to heart. I think it has taken now these 3 recent pieces of art to finally move me more in that direction to the center of my heart. I shared many visits ago that one metaphor for the pilgrim's journey is as the outward version of the inward journey to the heart. So now this particular pilgrim's path comes towards its end for now, as all things do, with death. And it's rather ironic to bring up death here in the springtime, all full of new life and the promise of an abundant summer right around the corner. But I was of an ancient pagan holiday within the wheel of life that is halfway to Samhain and Halloween. That is Beltane, the pagan fire festival celebrated on May 1st. And as the veil between life and death is thinnest at Halloween, so too is it thinnest the night before Beltane. Many of the same stories and traditions of Halloween are present in slightly altered form, such as warding off spirits and demons. It is only that at the end of April, we are on the upswing towards life and the abundance of summer, and at the end of October, we're on the downswing towards death and the scarcity of winter. But the veil between is thinnest in both parts of the year. So it makes sense to me now why my thoughts and musings have tended toward death this spring after all. As you've probably picked up by now, with all my talk of veils between the living and the dead, and poetry by Emily Dickinson, and visitations by dark figures, that this will not be a scientific treatise on death and dying. We're going to tread into the realm of the mysterious, and what some may call the irrational. And that's okay with me. As I mentioned, I'm trying to move from head to heart, because until we get there, that ultimately is where death lives, in the heart, in the realm of the unknown and the unknowable. And so I come in curiosity and wonder to this topic, not exactly abandoning fully my reason and intellect, but quieting them for a bit, to wander and wonder into uncharted territory, to understand and know in a different way, a path into mystery, because that is all it can ever be while I and we are on this side of it. So I invite your curiosity, your journey as well. Pop culture touchstone from last year was a miniseries on FX and Hulu called Dying for Sex. The show popular podcast, although I had it before the show, and tells the story of a young woman in her 40s diagnosed with cancer and her journey of self-discovery in the face of her coming death. especially exploring her sexuality fully for the first time, hence the name of the show. Along the way, the show depicts the breakup of her marriage, which doesn't survive the diagnosis and resulting quest, and her relationship with her best friend, who becomes her primary caregiver, and all the struggle of that role for her friend, and how prickly she can be as a patient. The show is funny and serious and awkward in all the ways sex and illness and death can be, especially when you're trying things outside your comfort zone for the first time and forced to confront your limitations and unmet needs all at the same time. For me, comes in the final as the main character, Molly, lands in hospice care for her final weeks of life. Molly, her mom, and her caregiver friend are visited by the hospice nurse who comes to explain how the next few weeks might go. I encourage you to check out the clip on YouTube, as we won't give it quite full justice here. Here is the dialogue, mostly in full.
Death is not a mystery. It's not a medical disaster. It's a bodily process, like giving birth or going to the bathroom or coughing or having an orgasm. Your body knows what to do. Your body knows how to die. How cool is that? Okay, here's what to expect. In the last month of your life, you're going to stop getting out of bed. You're going to eat and drink a lot less, and you're going to sleep a lot more. Delirium is common, and some people get the sense that time stops being real. 2 to 3 weeks out, you're going to need help with all daily activities. But my favorite part of the dying process, I know. I've been talked to about my enthusiasm. I should dial it back. I'm sorry. Your body knows what's coming, and it goes into a state of ketosis, which increases hunger, decreases hunger and pain, and it increases the sense of euphoria. And when you start the process of active dying, a sacred time, at least it used to be, and still is in some parts of the world, it's the moment when you are very close to death and your body starts shutting down. In active dying, you won't be fully conscious, and your jaw muscles will relax and your breathing changes. There might be this gurgling in the back of your throat caused by something unfortunately called terminal secretions. And when you are very close to death, your breathing goes into a cycle of deep, slow breaths and long pauses. And then, eventually, there is a breath out that is not followed by a breath in. Oh, wait, I forgot to tell you about the rally. The last week of life, some people experience what is called the rally. It's just this surge of energy and mental clarity. Oh, so enjoy the rally. Just know you're another step closer to death, okay?
So the scene ends with Molly beaming at the nurse in bemusement and colorfully saying, "I just love your vibe. You're freaking nuts, man." Her mom and caregiver friend, though, are not quite as appreciative. And reading it out like this outside of the context and the performance of the show, I thought, here we are back in the headspace, learning or relearning how we actually die. But as it originally struck me and has continued to resonate for me, I realized that it is the embodied aspect of it that comforts me. I immediately thought of how my wife described pregnancy and childbirth way back in the day when our kids were born. She says she didn't do anything. Her body took over and she just went along for the ride. And so another piece that resonates for me is the description of deep, slow breaths with long pauses. This sounds to me like one of my meditation practices of mindful breathing, of deep, slow breathing. And this reminds me that I've been practicing for my death all this time. So that and knowing my body will know what to do when I get to the end of my life gives me a weird and welcome sense of comfort and surrender. My other practice of surrender has been and is preparing me for that ultimate surrender. And that realization moves me in the direction from head to heart, from mind to body. Coming to our second offering, one of the ways my group was invited to prepare for our trip to Iona last summer was to read John O'Donohue's Anam Cara. I had read this book many years back when I first heard of him on a podcast or in some other reading. And this book is basically a thorough introduction to Celtic Christianity. It goes into the theology of God, the self, community, spiritual practices, and ultimately death. Within this reading last year, I joked with my family that I spent my weekends in July reading about death, my idea of a light beach read. And as I continued to read through the Celtic view of death, I slowly realized that I was starting to feel better about death. And so here are a few lengthy quotes that resonated with me.
For the Celts, the eternal world is so close to the natural world that death does not seem as a terribly destructive or threatening event. When you enter the eternal world, you are going home, where no shadow, no pain, or darkness can ever touch you again. In the Celtic tradition, there was a great sense that the dead do not live far away. In Ireland, there were always places, fields, and old ruins where ghosts of people were seen. That kind of folk memory recognizes that people who have lived in a place, even when they move to invisible forms, somehow still remain attached to that place. The Celtic Irish tradition recognizes that the eternal and transient worlds are woven in and through each other. Very often at death, the inhabitants of the eternal world come out toward the visible world. It can take a person days or hours to die, and then often preceding the moment of death, that person might see their deceased mother, grandmother, grandfather, or some relation, spouse, or friend. When a person is close to death, the veil between this world and the eternal world is very thin. In some cases, the veil is actually removed for a moment so that you can indeed be given a glimpse into the eternal world. Your friends who now live in the eternal world would come to meet you, to bring you home. Usually for people who are dying, to see their own friends gives them great strength, support, and encouragement. When the soul leaves the body, it is no longer under the burden of control of space and time. Soul is free. Distance and separation hinder it no more. The dead are our nearest neighbors. They're all around us. Meister Eckhart was once asked, where does the soul of a person go when that person dies? He said, no place. Where else would the soul be going? Where else is the eternal world? It can be nowhere other than here. We have falsely spatialized the eternal world. We have driven the eternal out into some kind of distant galaxy. Yet the eternal world does not seem to be a place rather than a different state of being. Soul of the person goes no place because there is no place else to go. This suggests that the dead are here with us, in the air that we are moving through all the time. The only difference between us and the dead is that they are now in an invisible form. You cannot see them with the human eye, but you can sense their presence of those you love who have died. With the refinement of your soul, you can sense them. You feel that they are near, If you learn not to be afraid of your death, then you realize that you do not need to fear anything else either. Since you have overcome your fear, your death will be a meeting with a lifelong friend from the deepest side of your own nature.
I think I've heard some or even most of this in one form or variation or another for much of my life and ministry. Somehow, though, on this latest reading, it hit me in a different way. What comforts me more in this reading is the relational aspect of death, on the person dying and the community, family and friends of that person, and those that remain in our world. I suppose when I get right down to it, at least part of my fear of death is in many ways my ultimate fear of loss of control and fear of missing out. I've heard many people express regret about not being around to see how their kids and grandkids fare in the world, and I am right there with them. My curiosity is so great around how my kids, no grandkids just yet, will find their way in the world and take our hopes and dreams forward to make our world better for themselves and others that I simply want to be around to see it. So taking to heart these Celtic beliefs and experiences gives me comfort that in some way I may be here after all, living through them throughout the rest of their lives, still intertwined between the natural and the eternal worlds. My spiritual director asked me last week if my beliefs in an afterlife have changed while writing this, and I hesitated a long time. Because beliefs for me are in the headspace, and since I'm trying to dwell in the heart, I cannot say any beliefs have changed, but I remain open. Celtic spirituality is trying to teach me in this moment. Just let that sigh sit here for a second. Let's breathe. My next offering, poet Andrea Gibson, who died from cancer last summer, a few weeks shy of her 50th birthday. I originally thought the clip I watched of her reading it came from the recent documentary of the final months and year of her life with her partner called Come See Me in the Good Light. When I watched the movie recently, though, it wasn't in there, but many of the same sentiments were interwoven in the movie. I found the clip again, it was from a separate interview they did earlier last year. I greatly recommend this clip and the movie too if you haven't seen or heard of it yet. It is on Apple TV. So this poem is a love letter from the afterlife and perfectly describes poetically what we just heard from the Celts a moment ago and so much more.
My love, I was so wrong. Dying is the opposite of leaving. When I left my body, I did not go away. That portal of light was not a portal to elsewhere, but a portal to here. I am more here than I ever was before. I am more with you than I ever could have imagined. So close, you look past me when wondering where I am. It's okay. I know that to be human is to be farsighted. But feel me now, walking the chambers of your heart, pressing my palms to the sun. Why did no one tell us that to die is to be reincarnated in those we love while they are still alive? Ask me the altitude of heaven, and I will answer, how tall are you? In my back pocket is a love note with every word you wished you'd said. At night, I sit ecstatic at the loom, weaving forgiveness into our worldly regrets. All day I listen to the radio of your memories. Yes, I know every secret you thought too dark to tell me, and love you more for everything you feared that might make me love you less. When you cry, I guide your tears towards the garden of kisses I once planted on your cheek, so you know they are all perennials. Forgive me for not being able to weep with you. One day you will understand. One day those waiting to be born, and they are all the more excited. There is nothing I want for you now that we are so close. I open the curtains of your eyelids with my own smile every morning. I wish you could see the beauty your spirit is right now making of your pain, your deep-seated fears playing musical chairs, laughing about how real they are not. My love, I want to sing it through the rafters of your bones. Dying is the opposite of leaving. I want to echo it through the corridors of your temples. I am more with you than I have ever was before. Do you understand? It was me who beckoned the stranger who caught you in her arms when you forgot not to order for the two at the coffee shop. It was me who was up all night gathering sunflowers into your chest the last day you feared you would never wake up feeling lighthearted. I know it's hard to believe, but I promise it's the truth. I promise one day you will say it too. I can't believe I ever thought I could lose you.
This poem fills me with such hope and joy on top of the sadness for someone so talented and so in love dying and being parted from that love. Of course, they are saying they are not actually parted from that love and even from life. I feel this in my bones, and it speaks directly to my heart, as all great poetry does. As I think of those from my life who have died, my father and his mother, my mother's father, I don't recall many of these day-to-day kind of experiences, but I do know I have dreamt of them occasionally over the years since their deaths. I have especially dreamt of them on a number of occasions in the weeks and months this sermon has been brewing. And maybe that is what John O'Donohue means when he mentions refining our souls to be able to sense them. So I do think and feel that this intertwining is in some ways real. A different kind of real, to be sure, but real to me nonetheless. I can only hope and dream that those in my life will experience me somehow in this way after I have become invisible to them. And as these offerings have accumulated for me over the last year, I have found more comfort and surrender around death and dying. I can feel the movement from head to heart. It is also my hope that touring through these offerings has brought you some comfort as well. I, of course, do not know what relationship you all have with death, your own and that of others near and dear to you. But I suspect that we all go through some level and some frequency of fear and anxiety about death. In whatever ways these particular offerings have spoken to you, may they provide some comfort, or perhaps some inspiration to seek out or recognize different offerings that may speak to you more deeply and lead you to the center of your heart. We each travel the path in different ways and at different times. And as always, know that you don't travel the path alone. And may we find our Anam Cara, our soul friends, along the way to guide and walk with us. So may it be forever, and amen.
Hi. As I listen to you and others, I'm reminded of two anecdotes. The first has to do with Clint Eastwood. It was a Western, and he was confronting an Indian chief who was about to go to war with. And Clint Eastwood said to the chief, "Dying is easy. Living is hard." Which leads me to my next anecdote. And it's a story of a man who is burying his wife. Happened to be Jewish, but doesn't have to be Jewish. And when everybody left, he kept standing over his wife's grave. And he kept saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you." And the rabbi said, she knows you love you. And his response was, if only I had told her while she lived that I loved her. What I take from this is if we go through life with if only I did this, if only I said that, you're going to drown yourself. And if you can comfort yourself in believing that death will become easier, if you can overcome the if only I did, you'll have an opportunity to resolve these if onlys after you pass.
Thank you, that was very good. It happens to be one of my favorite subjects to talk about. So I talk to my kids about this all the time, which makes them crazy. So I have this book that is called, Oh Shit, I'm Dead, What Now? So everything I want them to do is in that book. But you know, I'm not so much worried about being dead, whatever is going to happen, but how. And this was very good. Thank you.
My mother used to say, if only were horses, then beggars could ride.
I'm an NDE, and I have been on the other side. I know that it's absolutely real. There's absolutely nothing to fear and everything to hope for. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. My father also had a near-death experience during an operation on his back and came out of it with able to describe a sticker that was on top of a lamp that was at the top of the operating room. And the doctor said, how did you see that? He says, I was sitting in the ceiling watching, and she said this to you, and you said that to her, and, you know. So, and he, after that, he never had any fear of death whatsoever. Said it was calm and peaceful and beautiful. And because of that, I haven't either. So
I do mediumship work as well. And I wrote a whole book about, it's called Reunions in the Afterlife. It's a love story about after you die, when you meet your soulmate.
Thanks, Rob. That was really great. You know, I've always considered myself a person who relies on science. And when you get these big questions or small questions, you resolve them if they're the kind of questions that can be resolved, you know, based on science. And I'm kind of torn in this case whether to really give in, not to use the word give in, embrace irrationality, but I don't mean that in a pejorative way. Sort of don't look to science to resolve this. But I'm a little torn about that. So I think we're going to wrestle with this, but a lot of what you said could be interpreted as metaphors, you know, just like we have beautiful poetry that speaks in metaphors. So you don't have to say I'm abandoning rationality, I'm abandoning science, but you get a lot in life out of metaphors and symbols and so forth. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. But thanks a lot.
I also had a near-death experience and also have no fear of death because of it. But I came out of my body and I was up looking over the operating table and they were frantic and I was in this state of grace and just wanting them to calm. It's like, it's all right, it's all right. And then I turned and I did see, and my guess is with the womb, the child coming out may suddenly see the light, but it was the same experience of seeing this light and I'm going towards it. And it was just total love. That's the only word. And I don't know. And love was I was just totally wrapped in this. And all of a sudden, my 3-year-old son's face came across. And I went right back down into my body. So this could be, lack of oxygen, whatever. But how do you explain that sense of just total loving peace? I cannot, that one I can't explain.
Thank you.
Also, hearing is the last to go. They were so noisy down there, and I could hear everything they said, so be careful what you say around a person that's dead.
I wanted to add that I'm a big fan of Ram Dass. I'm not sure if you guys know about Ram Dass, but he was a Harvard professor and then became involved with Timothy Leary and LSD and became a guru. So he has a quote that I had written down so I can say it exactly the way that he did. I can. It's very simple. Death is absolutely safe. It's like taking off a tight shoe. And if you think about your soul and the potential of a soul packed into this little frail body, right? And all the pain it can feel. When I was a second grade teacher, on occasion I would have a child that had lost somebody and trying to comfort them in a way that they understood. And also my son, who's Danny, who's 25 and kind of in ways has the same abilities as a second grader. When I talk to him, I say, you remember when you had a loose tooth and you worried about it and it wiggled and it worried you to death. And then it came out and suddenly it wasn't a problem anymore and something new came up in its place. And life is about transitions like that. You get over that and you have that experience and you're like, okay, I lived through that. And then you have something else that comes along, maybe a little bit more intense. You get through it, you live through it, you realize I'm more resilient than that. What is this part of you that keeps on when parts of your body are falling away?
I just want you to know that Steve Jobs, who died in 2011, his last words were, "Oh, wow."
So curiously, I am, and I don't know how I got here, I'm not afraid of death or of being dead or whatever. What worries me is the lead up to it. Yeah, I just want to go in my sleep some night, and that'll be fine. But being dead, it's like, okay. And I don't know how I got there because I know I didn't always feel this way.
There's a really amazing book that I'm listening to right now by Michael Pollan. And he did The Botany of Desire. He's written a book, very science-based, and it's called A World Appears. It's about consciousness. So those of you that are kind of science-driven might want to look into that.
I know age makes a difference with your, relationship to death. I'm going to be 80, and you always knew it would happen, but as you get closer, and especially within the last 3 weeks, 3 people I know have died, people that I really, cared about, and another has been dying for a while, with hopefully Kuan Yin helping her move through that, but I agree a little bit with that. It's not so much being afraid of death. It's, the how what will happen beforehand. People can die in an instant. That's just it. It can happen. A bomb can fall. You're gone. You're in a car crash instantly. Or it can be a long, drawn out process. For myself, I'd much prefer it to be rather quick. But also, I just, really feel a lot about how that idea of, your children, to see that I don't have children, that also is something that maybe is a sadness, but also it's again it's a reality. It's just there's just so many ways of understanding it and being it, and I'm just as I move through this, nearer to death be thou. Actually, there was a woman in Urbana that lived to be 107, and she just died about 3 months ago, and with loving every moment of her life until that last bit. So it's just that's it. Just amazing. Whatever consciousness is, it's so many